Cool. Right, good afternoon everybody. Welcome to the second Guildhall Square Working Group meeting. We'll go straight into it. Item number 1, Chair's opening remarks. Just to say I'd like to welcome the stallholders that are behind me. I spoke to most of them yesterday at the market in great detail. I've invited them to come here to give their opinions of what the market should have and be like in the future. I will say that if I ask them questions or ask them to speak, they're more than welcome to speak. Apart from that, we'll crack on with the meeting. Items number 2 is apologies for absence received. I received apologies for absence from Councillor Breen. He has given me a report which I'll read in item 5. Item number 3, declarations of interest. To receive any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interest from the members in respect of the business to be transacted on the agenda.
Do I repeat every meeting the same thing? Is that the way it works? Yeah.
Can do, yeah.
No, it's the same as the minutes of the last meeting that I benefit from the lease on the building, of the business in the building.
Thank you. No?
Understand the shop, that is. Yeah.
Item number 4. To receive and approve the minutes of the Guildhall Square Working Group meeting held on the 9th of June 2023. Councillor Green.
No, I'm not Breen. He's not Breen.
That's right, Councillor Suka, sorry.
Hi. Okay, thanks, Dean. Can I just run through a few things?
Yeah.
One of the things I've mentioned at other meetings so far, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but ideally it would be really good to pull out actions so that we then track the actions rather than diving into the minutes to pull out actions at subsequent meetings. If you choose not to do that, that's fine, but for this meeting, I'll just pull out some of the actions from that last meeting and just to ask questions. One you've answered already, which is that Councillor Breen has given you an update. Brilliant. Okay. But the first thing I was going to ask about, renaming of the town square. We did have some exchanges around that after the meeting.
Yeah.
I think the intention was to take it to the Heritage and Townscape Committee. At least that's what the minutes say. But obviously I've looked at what's coming up on Monday, it's not mentioned there, so it might be a report you're taking into a later point. So I just wanted to clarify that. Is that the intention?
Yeah, I think the after the meeting, the consensus was there was quite a bit of an outcry regarding the naming of the square. I do believe, I think Steve, you can quote me on this, is that when they done the project, the square name was going to be changed. However, there has been an outcry to keep the same name as the Guildhall Forecourt.
I mean, it's not quite right. It was never suggested it should be Sandwich Centre or Sandwich Square. It was always Town Square or Guildhall Square. Yeah. It was a suggestion. But like I said at the last meeting, I don't know whether it then was carried forward to the project board. So it was a recommendation, but I think it got lost then as an action going forward.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to do, Steve, just make sure that we keep the connections along the way. For me, it's an issue that would have to go to the town council in any case. I think everybody would appreciate that.
I think so. I think it's almost irrelevant what the design group recommendation was. It's for the presumably the full council.
Yeah, but we can start the process, can't we? Obviously, which is what happened. Just moving on, Dean. There was quite a conversation. Well, there was quite a conversation around the public space protection orders.
Yeah.
The town clerk was going to take that away to check with DDC regards that. Have you had an update?
I haven't had an update on that.
Can we make sure that it's not lost? Really important. Pigeon mess.
I do believe that's on the full council for July.
Fantastic. Good.
Okay. Can I just say that the two guys, the caretakers here, said that they picked up on this and had brought in the guy who developed it before or put it up before, and they've had it addressed. But because apparently the pigeon proofing on the square floor, some of it had collapsed, which is why the pigeons were resettling. So they've been in, and apparently they've replaced what was broken. Now, whether or not it
solves the problem.
Yes.
Colin was quite animated about the pigeon mess, so I just want to make sure that he's satisfied in time that it's sorted.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at a staff restructuring, and one of the proposals is that we have someone who manages all our assets, which will include this building. So hopefully that will be sorted. I mean, I say it again, pigeons only are there because someone is feeding them. If you stop the feeding, they'll go away.
And I do believe that there is a PSPO that you can get for that, public space protection for that, for feeding animals. So, but I do know that the Mayor did specifically say a few weeks ago, I do believe it might have been on the Townsgate Heritage meeting, that he was going to bring it to full council for July to speak about the pigeon situation within the square.
Then just two final things. One,
Sorry, can I just clarify? You're talking about buildings, we're talking about the square, but actually
It's a
linked thing. It's a linked thing
Yeah.
because it's the square and the whole building. Because
Yeah.
the other side of the building is still a mess with
They
pigeons.
live on the building.
Yeah.
and then the last meeting was quite peppered with today's meeting really focusing on the market.
Yeah.
Brilliant that the traders are here, but also I think it's really important to recognise it's about the council's strategy for the market for the future.
Yes.
Taking the input, but residents' input, but also one of the actions that was mentioned was about investigating deal as a successful model and somehow maybe drawing them into what we do for the future. So just making sure that's not lost.
No, I have had, there's an update for that. I have been trying to get hold of the gentleman that runs Deal Saturday Market. However, he's quite unwell at the moment. Has not responded to any emails. So I will chase that up again.
That's what it gets. Well then, so that was it in terms of things. So it's about strategy of the council for the market for the future, with the input from market creators, but also residents and other stakeholders.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor, no.
My name is spelled with two T's, and it's spelled with one T throughout.
My apologies.
Yeah.
So more houses.
My fifth great grandfather changed it.
We'll get back to the town clerk taking minutes at some point, and you'll get it all right.
So, anyone else? Anyone else like to say anything about the minutes? Now the proposed and seconded with the amendments.
Proposed.
Councillor Miles, second. Councillor Lumsden?
Yeah.
Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Excellent. So, item number 5. Item number 5 is to receive any updates from councillors in relation to the Guildhall Square. Now, I do believe, Councillor Mallet, that Councillor Bean said that you
Yes.
would read this out.
Yes, no, I spoke to David Parish. The email that I sent to Councillor Green. I just looked that up and then find my way around the. No, I'll these basically, it's all ongoing in terms of documentation. I've asked for David Parish to forward documentation to us as it comes in. They're expecting it to be completed, as we have seen, imminently. One of the concerns that I think we need to look at is that there are spare cobbles and flagstones and various other spare items amounting to something like 5 pallets worth. These of course will be very heavy, and we need to consider storage of some kind. So that I think will be one of the biggest challenges of the whole lot. Electrics all running fine. We will get the certifications for the electrics. It ran through basically how they work, what they were, where the various off and on switches were. It's a standard square key to access the plate inside the centre of the Guildhall forecourt square. The trees, watering, David wasn't quite sure how they were watered apart from running a hose. We have the hose, we have the tap, so we can water them. My understanding or my assumption was there was some automatic watering system, but they are all joined underground. So you essentially water one tree and it should trickle across. I would be tempted to water each tree individually.
So you're saying to me that the irrigation system that the money's been spent on for the trees to water them automatically has to be done by hand by turning on the tap.
We didn't know.
Right.
David couldn't confirm either way, so that has to be clarified.
I've been told all the way through there was an automatic
that's what we
watering
need.
system underneath, because you need a pipe to get down to the roots.
Yeah.
It's no good watering the soil.
So could we log an action
Yeah, we'll sort that. Yeah, I'll look
to
into
get the
that.
clarification?
Shall we just decide each of these what we're going to minute as an action and just keep to that?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
So for me, the action is clarifying with
David Parish, the nature, how the trees are watered. There is also needs to be an action where essentially 5 pallet loads of very heavy pallets are stored.
Can those actions be for Councillor Breen to carry on with?
I think so.
I mean, the cobbles and the Yorkstones, presumably they're owned by the contractor.
No, they are passed on to us. So they are part of what the deliverable is of the square as spares.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Councillor.
Do we need 5 pallets worth of spares? Or are we in a position, as we were before, that there are actually cobbles and flagstones which people might welcome in the town, and that we have to run a system to advertise? I mean, I just want to know, I'm not clear, I don't understand the technical term of 1 pallet and what it contains, but it strikes me it's a lot. Do we need them all?
I think it's a good point on the basis, Chair, that actually we might be left with them as a sense of, rather than them being a difficult job to take away, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
I would imagine so.
My suggestion would be to speak to where they were kept beforehand, before the plot went through, and that was at the Ash Road Depot, KCC.
Yeah, exactly.
But are they genuine spares?
I do believe so. We need to find out about the warranty. I think the warranty is a year for us, isn't it? For anything that goes wrong with the script, a year. And then after that, the STC is responsible for it. So the spares would be if any cobbles break or any come on loose and stuff.
I mean, 5 years down the line, if there's a major damage to the square, we'll need that.
Yeah, we need the stuff.
Okay.
I've just checked on the trees. I'm fairly certain there is an underwater irrigation system. We can see it. You might want to note what they are so you can look up what a good watering regime is, because I don't think David Parish is likely to be able to give you that.
No.
Do you want to write down what they are? Because I've just found the reference. Pyrus, P-Y-R-U-S.
P-Y-O-U-S.
No,
Pyrus.
PYRUS.
Yeah.
C-H-A-N-T, chunt, I-C-L-E-E-R. Pyrus Chanticleer.
It's an ornamental pear
Yes.
from China.
So how much water they need and how often, probably worth looking it up for yourselves.
Yeah. So might end over watering, that's the other issue, isn't it? It's knowing the regime.
They need gallons of water in the early stage.
I find it astounding that David Parish, who's responsible for the entire situation, does not know all about the trees, because we've watched them go in, and every
It's a very
time I've
elaborate-
watched them or spoken to the contractors, they have indicated that these are self-watering.
Yes, that was. I believe that was in the
But it
paper.
might well be the case.
And also we need to be certain that system, if it is automatic, is working,
Yes.
and how it works and what triggers it, and
Yeah.
you know, it's
And can I just check under the actions that we had quite a lot of discussion last time about Councillor Breen's sort of indication with all the paperwork, everything that he wanted. So has he actually got all that paperwork, or is it all being passed to him piecemeal, or is there things outstanding or
At the moment, the presumption is they're going to pass piecemeal.
they're being passed? But he's satisfied with what he's
Yes, I asked him to pass, as soon as he had anything that he could pass, and pass it through to us, to not accumulate it and then pass it as a set, but as he gets it, we should have it.
So it's being passed piecemeal as,
Yes, that's the idea.
and that's for the Sandwich Town Council.
Yeah.
I have found Councillor Breen's email if you want to read it out briefly.
Yes, yes.
So number one, it says meetings with David Parish to discuss the handover of the Guildhall Square was held on the 13th of June, Councillor Breen, on the 27th of June, Councillor Mallett. The next meeting is scheduled for the 11th of July, which is next Monday, isn't it?
Yes.
David, next Tuesday, thanks. Wow. So number two, David Parish has confirmed that STC will be given a building manual containing all the operation and maintenance information in accordance with the construction design and management regulations. He has shared the contractual specification requirements. Discussions are ongoing regarding the timings and the availability of advanced site of documents. Number three, STC will have the opportunity to review the documents that have been produced and will not be involved in the contract administration, Number four, David Parish has provided a layout of the Guildhall Square. This is attached to this email and should be helpful in laying out market stalls. Number five, storage location for spares is an issue, stroke action for STC to address, which we've spoken about. Any suggestions will be welcome. It says, I hope we're both as clear, please feel free to contact me or Councillor Mallett. That's it. So, yeah.
That gets forwarded. I think we should just put it on as an attachment.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Anything else?
Could I suggest that Councillor Breen meets with the town clerk and the caretakers? Because I think the caretakers need to be fully aware of what's involved in the contract, what their responsibilities might be, because they're going to be doing the day-to-day care of the square, of the forecourt. So we need to involve them.
Dean, can I ask, because this is about the Guildhall Square, particularly with all the pressures on in terms of the festival,
Yes.
have you had any feedback from the festival in terms of what was available to them? Did it meet their requirements?
So the folk now, I'm Councillor Mallett got the answer this a bit more than me because I only attended one day. So all I do know is that it was the square was widely made available apart from certain places that were still cloned off. Councillor Mallett.
Yes, no, I thought it was a good square. Having the power output in the centre was excellent for the management of the music, because you have a music technician, I don't know what the technical term is.
Soundman.
Soundman, yes. The soundman in the centre was able to plug in immediately. And basically we have technically we have a three-phase system running from parts of the Guildhall and a separate three-phase system running from the centre. All the outlets were used. Had there not been that central location, I think we would have been challenged in having enough outlets on the square. So on that side, it worked very well. We put down, as an example, tarpaulins underneath the food stalls, and that seems to have worked in keeping everything clean. Beyond that, the only thing I would like to have seen, and this is my personal view, is a better way of looking at how we can run the cables. And I've raised this to individuals before, is having grooves where the route between the sets are, so that cables can be set in or recessed better, possibly also with tape over the top, but basically to improve the safety of running cables. and perhaps that's going to be looked at in years to come when the Guildhall Square isn't quite, we're not so sensitive about it.
Yeah.
I think cutting grooves in now would be a no-no.
No, yes.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe 2 years or 3 years' time.
It would also be a hazard. I mean, we're already saying that grooves are a hazard.
I mean, I know some council mates talking about they're bringing them into London boroughs at the moment for electric vehicles.
Yes.
So it's like it's a metal groove, and basically it's only thin enough for a wire to fit through. So it drops into, it's easy to pull out and out.
It depends very much on the size of the wire. I mean,
Suppose there is stiletto
we
hinges.
won't go down this route, but I think if we've got a flat surface, we've got a flat surface.
If you imagine, when New Street has these grooves.
Yeah,
the
I'm
lettering
aware of
is,
what they look like. I'm just saying that would be a decision about, we've gone to all
But
this
as-
sort of problems to make sure it's
if-
safe
yes, hold
and
on.
flat.
The reason I said a couple of years' time is so we don't have to.
I don't think it's a conversation for the
No,
work.
not
So
for now.
obviously
No,
this
yeah,
work
yeah.
is to start up the square again.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. Councillor Moss?
Yeah, I was there all 3 days. It was incredibly successful. I think the 3 days of the main 3 days of the festival. Vehicles were going on to offload and to unload on Sunday evening. As far as I'm aware, there's no damage to the cobbles or the flagstones in any way. So it was very successful. I think the one thing I've picked up is the benches. To me, they don't look right. They're very uncomfortable to sit on. There's something wrong with them. The seating bit is much shorter than the backrest. Whether they've been installed correctly, I'm not sure, but I think that's something for
This was
Councillor Breen to pick up with David Parish.
This was picked up on the design group before the plans were signed off. There was an early feedback saying that benches without backs just does not work for elderly Sandwich residents, that you must have backs on them. At the moment it's hard to say whether they all will have backs or just some of them. But it was also queried having such a modern design against the old Guildhall building. And the trouble is, so much has got lost in what was consulted on and approved, and then the long delay before what might have been signed off at planning stage. I don't think those benches of that style were signed off by the design group.
The original design, the planks were lateral, and now they're sticking out, so they stick into the back of your thigh.
I think they were rejected.
And they're just not comfortable. Maybe they're deliberately not comfortable.
So could I just suggest that there's two things. One, there's an action there that Councillor Green picks this up in his next meeting with David Parish. Secondly, I think we need to monitor this over time so we get evidence about the bench, assuming they're right, usability, the feedback from residents, and then maybe we have to actually at some point in the future make a decision about whether they are the right benches for Sandwich based on what you've said, but also more importantly people sitting on them.
But the time is now to change it because before they finish them.
Yeah, position of the benches is too close to the building in relation to what we were discussing before about the pigeons. And I can't understand why there aren't benches between the trees, because that wouldn't impinge upon the usable space.
It would do actually. That was a specific design feature to keep the space between trees, lamppost trees. That went back and forwards, but always to be able to get vehicles through that space to again unload, pick up whatever you might want to do with that space on a temporary basis. So that was open by design.
Councillor Green did send me and Councillor an up-to-date plan of the site. So if anyone wants a copy, please I'll email it to you.
Forward that.
Yeah.
I've never seen
Didn't they decide to move those benches back so that originally, because of the query over not having backs, the idea was that if they moved them back far enough, the building would act as part of back, because I actually heard that from one of the contractors
They're too wide.
I agree. So then they decided after the last consultation, which was back last year, to put partial backs on. So they're not, I don't think they intend going all the way across the back of those benches, only partially.
I've just sat on that bench and it's miles away from the building,
Yeah.
but you still think the pigeon is about to shit on your head. Either that or the automatic watering through.
We'll get soaked by the, we get
The trouble is there's been such a long delay. The consultation in what was called the meeting room, can't remember what you call it now, that was pretty thorough, and all the design plans were there for the public to consult on. There was a lot of feedback, and it was definite that the feedback that these modern benches, slack benches, were not really what residents wanted. That was clearly the feedback. What actually happened with that feedback is another question, because we're talking about 4 years ago, I think, and it's got lost somewhere.
Yeah.
And to pick up the thread, the chain, what happened after that is very difficult.
So can I just go back to Colin? You said the opportunity is still there. So what do you mean by that? Because
Well, they're only half finished, so they need to be told now if it's wrong, rather than when they're finished, because it's harder to undo what's wrong.
It won't be technically wrong according to the current plan. David Parish has said on a couple of things, including the drop curb, which I want to pick up on. That's what's on the plan. That's all. That isn't what was consulted on. Well, it doesn't matter. It's what's on the plan. So it's almost certain that what's on the plan at the moment, the benches, is what they're installing.
Yeah.
But if that's what, but there's a different question: is that what we really wanted or signed off after the public consultation 4 years ago? It's difficult to unravel that such a long time.
Otherwise,
And the other issue is the loss of seating space.
yes, so we have lost a considerable amount.
And that's affecting elderly residents who walk in from the south side, who come in because they do it daily. It's exercise for them. And lastly, the incongruous bus shelter, which looks completely out of shape.
I do still believe that the bus shelter's not finished yet, so I do believe that, yeah. I've been told that it's the glass and the metal work's going to be engraved. So there's going to be some engraving done on the glass.
Are there going to be sides to the bus
Yes, I
shelter?
believe I think there's
My
glass,
understanding
yes.
is that there will be some sides and that the back will be engraved. They wouldn't engrave it before it was put up, because if it got damaged, they'd have, when they were putting it up in any way, then actually you've paid for engraving, which would have been wasted.
Yeah.
But both Councillor Friend confirmed at a meeting, and it might be a town team meeting, but confirmed that actually it was going to be engraved.
It's like lipstick on a pig.
Yes, it is. It's not. I mean, it's gilding the lily, or I mean, not gilding the lily. I mean, it needs sides. It's no shelter unless it has sides, and it's too small. It's ridiculous.
And I would suggest the seating is completely unsuitable for anyone of all elderly.
Is it 4 seats they've got on it? 3, 4?
Maximum 4.
Again, I'm fairly certain that the consultation phase, the public did feedback. They did not like that design.
And that's right.
But what happened with that consultation feedback is another question.
Is it worth asking the question? So what happened to the?
So we have
For
got an
consultation,
outstanding action for a lessons learned review at the end of August, and David Parish has signed up to do that. If he does that, that's brilliant. These are the things we have to understand the story.
I mean, by the looks of it, Councillor Green can be very busy over the next few days. So, we can put that, we can coincide that with the hopefully the meeting on Tuesday. So,
Okay, did you pick up on the drop curb? I mean, was it an action from the last meeting? Did it go on to the Councillor Green list of things to inquire about and check on? Because again, it's probably not quite too late, but it soon will be.
What is the point?
so
But there's only
Never
there's
talking about the drop
It's
curb.
the on and off, is it?
in the original design, I'm fairly certain there was an in and an out.
Yeah.
No, it's only one. It's fairly wide, so
It is
fortunately,
wide, yes.
there's room for vehicles to pass, but there's only one channel. So the in and out is the same channel as it used to be. One at either end.
it was always in the plans, because when we used to have events on the old square, it used to always snarl up in the middle because cars are trying to get out and cars are trying to get in. That's all right.
Sorry, another outstanding action from the last council when Stagecoach were there is that they were happy to meet on site with KCC.
Yeah.
And I think the town clerk, Councillor Green, whoever should be action to invite them to a site meeting to talk about the unsafe bus stand.
Yeah. Councillor Wild? Sorry, Councillor Mallett.
Just going back to the drop curb, while one can drive over the raised curb, they're putting in bollards to stop you. So that will be the issue rather than just.
And this affects everything we do: markets, Thursday markets, Saturday markets, events. To have vehicles squeezing past each other, where there's perhaps a stall there as well, is so very difficult compared with what I think was the original design of having two channels spaced apart.
So I think all we could do at the moment, Chair, is that this is taken forward by Peter Breen at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Simon, are you going to that meeting? Yeah, so there's a link
Yeah.
rather than just saying to Peter all these things.
Yeah, no.
Understand them.
I'll email Councillor Breen and Councillor Mallett with the action plan. The asked questions that could be asked on Tuesday.
Rather ironic that they've created a temporary additional channel with black tarmac, because they need it themselves.
Any other updates from anyone else?
Well, on the plan, does it show where the rubbish bins are going?
Bear with me. No. Nor your plant pots either.
Not the plant pots, no. Which I've asked about, and in my opinion, somehow the square looks vast.
It does.
It looks to me as though the 3 original planters, and they were supposed to be weathered steel planters, we need something. Now I don't know how that impacts on the market, festivals and so on, and the space that's used, but it is very sparse looking.
That was part of the design. To remove the tree was controversial. The Guy Dunet memorial tree. The bench around the bush was removed, but all of that was by design to make it more open, more usable space.
Yes.
And I don't think there ever was a design to put back in any permanent planters, just the trees.
Right, so David Parish has told me there was, and there is.
Well,
Because I keep emailing, asking when, because we don't know what's going in them. And he did suggest that Sandwich and Bloom got involved in that. So, but this is why I'm asking.
Well, I just suspect quite a lot of detail has changed since the consultation phase and the design was signed off.
Yeah.
So could I just check, Chair, in terms of this group reports into the Town Council?
Yeah.
If we leave everything that's coming up here today, and there obviously are still a number of issues, if we leave it to the next meeting of this group, that's going to be a month away. We have got a Town Council meeting before then. Could I suggest, and I think it's already in the minutes for the last meeting, that you will be making a report into there, that somehow the report goes in flagging up where we are with some of these issues, because things will happen over the next week.
Yes.
Yeah, the Town Council is the right place to apply pressure, if any pressure can be applied. This group can do nothing other really than just capture the concerns, I think.
Yeah. If we can get the actions done before the full council meeting, we can bring it to council, then we can debate on it and decide an outcome. And for the information for BN, I currently count 1, which is by the benches by the museum entrance. That's the only one I can see on there. So I'll email this new plan to everybody.
No bicycle racks?
No. It's a very basic. All it shows is 1 bin, 1 bus stop, 2 benches, 4 trees, and a load of stone. That's all it shows. And the bollards that go across the front here. That's about it. And 2 drop bollards as well. On the two dropped bollards.
Drop curb.
Yeah.
Oh, retractable bollards on the drop. So you're going to have a drop curb.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's going to be blocked up by lockable bollards. It's what we used to have in the archway.
Yeah. So it's seized up.
Seized up, and you couldn't even get a fire engine in it or anything else.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, thank you very much. We'll put those actions in an email to sit for Councillor Mallett and Green. Right, back to the agenda. Okay, item number 6. Okay, to review and consider a new hire agreement for Sandwich markets and events. We discussed with market traders and interim market manager Sandwich Community Events Association to bring forward an up-to-date hire agreement contract for the Guildhall Square to include up-to-date pitch fees for small and large stalls, allowing vehicles on or not to the new surface of the Guildhall Square for Thursday markets and events, a contract to be included in the hire agreement for leaks, spills and damages that occur from vehicles, liaison from other local markets to help boost the Sandwich market with more stalls and publicity, including a 10-point action plan for the Thursday market, points to be discussed and implemented today. Event hire charges, fees or waivers for established events, electricity and water charges, and correct documentation from stall holders, e.g. public liability insurance, food hygiene safety certificates and gas safety certificates if you're using LPG and outdoor catering. I've done some little bit of writing down today, and yesterday I spoke to many of the stall holders yesterday for quite a large length of time of what they would like to see in the market. And one of the biggest issues they have is the vehicles on the square during the Thursday market. Majority of them are large stalls, and the majority of them have their stock inside their vehicles, where I actually saw my own eyes yesterday. They had to walk to the vehicles, which are parked at the back of the Guildhall with their stock, to walk back again. Now, my suggestion or my opinion would be to allow the vehicles back on the square, for them to use it as their storerooms while they're on the square. But I need everybody else's opinions on that as well, regarding vehicles on the square. We'll do it bit by bit so we can get it done and dusted. Councillor Malik? Sorry.
Yeah, I think I was first.
Sorry, Councillor Ormston.
I'm keen on seeing the market revived,
Yes,
and if part of that is to allow vehicles onto the square, that's fine by me, but the immediate issue I think is how many vehicles. We don't want the square to fill up with vehicles, and particularly not on market days. So, you know, I think we do have to take a view about, I mean, I know at the moment we're looking for many more stall holders,
Yes.
but we may have to take a view about maximum numbers, particularly if they're bringing vehicles, and the size of the vehicles that they're bringing on. So,
Well, you've only got 6 at the moment.
yes, well,
That's all you've got.
yes, okay, well, I mean, I think we have to take a view about whether 6 is manageable, and I suspect that it is, but we you know, if we ever got to the stage of 20, I think that would be too many. So I think we have to have a view.
My opinion would be that, I think you mentioned this as well, Steve, at the last meeting regarding vehicles, is that we need to be a bit, what's the word I'm trying to look for, a bit cautious. So for instance, if a large vehicle, like Alan's large vehicle that he has, the large red van that he has, and others, and for instance Tracy that does the flowers and stuff for her large van, they use them as storerooms. The large vans, yes, maybe, but if you have, like, for instance, a Nissan Micra kind of thing, and you're getting a load of bread out of it and stuff, that could be easily parked in the car park. That's what I'm looking at. So large vehicles or medium-sized vehicles that are going to be used for storerooms, especially when the weather starts coming in the winter months. With the smaller vehicles, then they can be allowed to come on, unload, and then park in the car park.
Yes, there's somebody behind you.
Sorry, yes, Andy, go on.
Yeah, again with the vehicles, as you said, a lot of them are storage. It's layout, and when the vehicles are arriving and unloading, and again like that layout. So if you've got the layout, the vans down the side and that, smaller ones down the middle, their cars go off. It's all about access, setting up and taking down, and etc. on top of the storage and everything else as well. And just another point on the new forecourts. I've got a question about that in a minute. You're still calling it a square. I thought it was a forecourt.
So regarding that, I
Yeah,
think that the name for the square needs to be taken to full council. I think that.
We're amongst friends here, Andy, so
Yeah.
we can call this.
No, well,
Yeah.
until we've known this forecourt,
Yeah.
until you've had the decision to change the name,
Yes.
I think, sorry, I was a bit upset that
No,
you
no, no, no.
called in square.
It's
Yeah.
forecourt.
So just the other thing, we've got a new service and everything else and that. Wear and tear will cut down 50% if vehicles stayed on, rather than coming on twice.
Well, I
That's
think,
just another.
yeah, I think where we kind of got to, that it's obvious that some stalls, vehicles have to be on. I mean, the Chandler and Dunn stall was a vehicle.
Mm.
So there's a category where it's obvious that the vehicle stays on. And as I've seen it over the years, the two larger ones are fruit and veg and eggs. They have got so much stock inside the vehicles that it's hard for them to operate without that vehicle being there. So to that extent, to have a ban on all vehicles doesn't work. So where you then get to, I think, is like you say, the smaller stalls, and if somebody's pitches up to do face painting for a couple of sessions, do they have a right to have the vehicle on there because that's the policy you can have vehicles on? Well, I would say no. That's what I was trying to say in the last meeting, be a little bit more sensitive and work out which vehicles are needed and which ones are not needed, and possibly reflect it in the charges. But don't say blanket, yeah. You can't say blanket no, because it doesn't work. But I would say don't say blanket yes.
Sally?
See, when we took the vans off last time, we had to take them off. We lost hundreds of pounds a week.
Sally?
Hundreds.
I just think common sense needs to prevail. If
Yeah.
vehicles are allowed on and off for events, the same must apply to the market. Anything that applies to events must apply to the market.
Yeah.
You can't ban vehicles on the market for the market and have vehicles on here for events. Let's be reasonable. You know, you can't have a blanket no for market and yes for events because it's not fair. We're all here to make money, as all the event traders were on the weekends.
Yeah.
The way it works with events is it is half and half. Some vehicles stay if they're needed.
That's what we're saying, that's what we're saying about
that is the
market,
whole
yeah.
point.
And that's what I've
Common
tried
sense-
to. That's
common
what I've
sense
tried
needs
to
prevail.
recommend.
Yeah, absolutely.
But stalls that don't need their vehicles to stay there for events, we get them off and get them up to
We do
code.
sometimes because we have a huge cool box in the back of the car, and when it is really hot, we need to keep stuff in the cool box in the car rather than trying to move it to the car park. Weather will be on here, when the weather is still hot, who knows, but one hopes.
And it costs us £160 to park in that car park.
And that's just for Thursday.
That's just
Yeah.
the first park there.
See, that is the other issue, isn't it?
And you're not taking the money
Parking
to,
fees, yeah.
Yeah,
you're just
yeah.
not taking the money to.
So you can't let somebody park for free here and charge somebody to park in there. That makes the whole thing upside down, doesn't it? That brings animosity between the market traders and the council, which, to be fair, nobody wants, but that will do, won't it? I've got to pay for a car park, oh, he can park his van in there.
I am due to,
So you have to be careful,
yeah.
not all or nothing.
I am due to have a meeting with the parking services at Dover Council regarding this. One of the questions I was going to ask them is about waivers or permits for market traders for Thursday market to help boost the market. Because even if you've got a small car and you want to trade on the square, but it's not, your car's not needed on the square, we can park it in the car park and you have a permit. Sandwich Council will have the permits and they were given to use for you to park there for free, so you don't waste your revenue that you've made.
Exactly, this is the point.
Very, very,
Well,
very
something has
yeah.
to go somewhere.
But I say, you're very lucky that everybody is supporting the market, those people. Because if we weren't, you wouldn't have no market, I'm afraid. You'd have nobody here. And it's as easy as that. We've done it for 20 odd years, and I mean, we don't get no help nowhere.
No.
No help at all.
I think based on that, we must recognise it's commercial activity, that we actively want the market, and it's not a decorative market, it's commerce.
Yeah.
It's only the old people in Sandwich that keep us going. We don't hardly see any youngsters in the market.
That's probably because of the-
That's on.
Yeah, I just,
It's all the elderly people.
I support, we all want to see the market here and thriving.
Yeah.
But I do have one worry about the museum entrance, that we don't want vehicles blocking the museum entrance.
No,
So we just have to be very clear about how many vehicles, where they can go and so on. and that has to be thrashed out.
In previous times of the events, we've always kept them up. We've always kept the museum entrance clear so people can see it, and it's so it's easy to get to. Carol?
Then, in a way, this goes back to the point that's already been made. It's about it. A lot of this is about fees.
Yes.
And it will be about the size and the type of vehicles. Now, if the contracts that are here are correct, then each trader, whether it be a festival trader or a market trader, should be getting a copy of that contract, and at the time that they get the contract will determine with them whether this is a contract that says they are going to be able to stay on the forecourt because of the way their goods are presented, or whether they will be someone that has to set up and go back off the forecourt. So that's a negotiation point. Surely, at the point you deal with that. But if they are having to go off the forecourt, then either the fee or the fee for parking, either the fee for parking has to be waived, or the fee for renting the stall has to be reduced to match, so that there is no unfairness about the way people operate. And to me, that's all about the contract that is with, and who is responsible for making sure that contract is given or negotiated with each stallholder.
Okay. Councillor Morehouse?
Yeah, the contracts can't have a one-size-fits-all contract.
No.
You're going to have to have a tailor-made contract. And also that contract will need to take into account your negotiation with parking services.
Yeah. So I do believe I invited you to that meeting when it happens. I have to let you know, because obviously you're DDC councillor.
And that begs the question, who actually owns the responsibility for negotiating and managing these contracts? Is it the council or a council appointed service to manage it for you? Because it's quite a complicated thing, and it needs sensitivity and some experience of working with the traders, and it will evolve. If you sat down today and tried to write it, you wouldn't get it right.
I do believe it would be so. I believe it would be part of the officer that's hopefully going to be recruited soon, the business or the assets manager.
You're going to do it yourselves.
I believe that would be
not contract it out to markets operating.
I mean, that's another question. I mean, that's another question in regards to. I mean, we can decide whether vehicles are allowed on spares because it's one of our assets. But with regard to the market itself, I mean, if anybody would be interested in running the market, then
I mean, you've effectively already taken a decision. There's a very clear consensus that those vehicles that need to be on there because of the nature of the operation will be allowed to be on there. Perhaps there are some stores that don't need a vehicle, and perhaps they should find an alternative arrangement. But the work to be done to sort it out. My real question: who has the responsibility for doing that?
Yeah, and I think it's a really good point, because if we continue to focus on the minutiae of detail, what happens is the market, unfortunately, will continue to decline, which is not what anybody here wants. What we do need is strategy, which the elements that are important to you are part of that, but also it's about how the market expands, because that again would benefit yourselves if more people come. And I'm just slightly worried, because I think I can recall Colin mentioning at some meeting in the past, probably a month and a half or so ago, about we need to have a launch of the market in, and I might be wrong, July or maybe August.
Please don't quote me.
Yeah, whenever it was.
It would be nice to.
I thought I remembered July, but I could be wrong.
I do. But my opinion would be is to keep it on there till August.
But
my point is it doesn't really matter when. The fact is, we're not going to get to a point of a launch without some activity around what is the strategy for the market.
Okay.
How are we going to deal with it? If we wait until somebody's employed, that could be 2 or 3.
I have got an axe to grind here, because some years ago the community interest company I was director of, we had a strategy and we were tasked with driving the market, building it up. And we were very clear on what we're going to do, and it included building up the indoor markets in parallel with the outdoor markets. We kind of knew what we were doing and how to do it, and that was when we first appointed a new market manager. And it was within a matter of a couple of weeks of that that the council suddenly said, we'll take it off you, we'll take it off you. Without any thought, well, how is the council going to replace our strategy with an alternative strategy? And we're still here today saying, well, if the council does it, who's got the skill and the experience and the time to find new markets, find the stallholders, negotiate with them, then promote it? You can't launch something that you haven't got. You've got to build it up first. You've got half a dozen stalls, and at the moment you haven't got anybody with the experience, knowledge and skill set to go from where you are today to where you want to be over the next 2 years.
Exactly.
And it will take time.
That's my point. You've got one comment behind it.
Yeah, two or three little points. One, it was a great idea to put tilts under the stalls. It has its problems if you've got freestanding fryers and things make things slippery. But anyway, the market, the thing about a contract is it needs to be simple, workable, understandable. It doesn't need to be complicated. Otherwise, because nobody will understand it. It needs to be very simple. This is what we expect of you, this is what you expect from us. Basically, it can't be hard and fast, boned up. We once did an event that had that thick of rules for this event.
So nobody read.
But nobody read.
Yeah.
Because it was a waste of
It is a large.
Because you couldn't read it. It was written by some solicitor, some legal person. Nobody understood it.
And the person that's working, i.e. market manager, outside, whatever, is the person that is going to be the one who works out where the stores are going to go, who needs what, and that sort of thing. It's got to be somebody who's working it on the ground.
Yes.
You know, we've all got good ideas, but until you actually put stuff into practice, nobody knows how it's going to be used.
So the issue is, we have to start seriously looking at how do we get a vision for the future market.
Absolutely.
Getting a strategy in place for that, getting the right skilled person to do it. We are in a vacuum at the moment.
Correct.
And we will stay in that vacuum unless somehow we force it forward.
Yes.
This group can't do that. We can talk about the detail, but it's going to be far.
There's a classic example last week. Someone said, we need wet fish back again. I said, absolutely right. But how do you find a wet fish stall and negotiate with that person to bring them along? Who is going to go out and actually go looking and find the person?
And so it's a really good idea.
And with all due respect, I can't see councillors doing that.
No. But that has to fit within what the vision and the strategy is, because if not, then everybody trundles off to find a fishmonger. So the point is that part of the strategy? So what is the vision for the market?
Someone has to create it.
Yeah.
I mean, once upon a time, we had a marvellous market here. It was full of, but they just let the people go.
Yeah.
They
weren't taking the money.
They weren't taking the money or nothing.
They paid a fee and they weren't making anything.
But the problem is, the past, unfortunately, was far more fruitful around markets, etc. You have to work hard now in terms of the overall management of that. You're there to do what you want to do, whereas somebody said make your money, which is important. But actually you need somebody above you who's the right skilled person, who's appointed either within the council or outside the council to actually do
Someone
something.
who's active is what you're trying to say, is there someone who's actively going to take it on and manage the market?
We haven't got a market manager now at the moment, since we haven't got the practical manager.
We didn't have one
We didn't really
have
have one before. We didn't.
Okay.
We didn't.
Okay.
You never
We never saw.
If you go, Andy, if you go back 2 years, you did, but we didn't talk about the last 12 months. We talked about.
This is about looking forward.
Can I ask? Sorry, who was that? Who was talking?
Me. Going back to the plans and everything else and that, the first thing we need to know is the space of the forecourt, so that you can work out what you're going to do. Whoever's going to manage it, work with existing market stallholders. Because lots of them have contacts at other markets and other stallholders that would be willing. And yes, it is difficult trying to get fish. I've been hunting around, but we haven't been able to do anything since February, because the only space we've got is them
Yeah.
7 spaces in the car park.
And
We
they're not
couldn't build
they're
up.
not
We're
going to
getting
attract
told-
anybody you
We're
are.
getting told off by the doctor's surgery every time we use the
Social
T-bar
media's
and that
got
because of
this
the one
as
extra
well.
stall, or cars parking in space and not moving.
Social
But
media's
yes.
got a great start,
Can I-
hasn't it?
Can I ask a question?
No, just go sort of, it's a few, so can I ask Councillor Wiles first, because he was first, and then I'll go down the train.
Yeah, so if I can suggest a way forward, because we've talked about a lot of issues here. First of all, I think at the last meeting we agreed we probably need to double the number of stalls
Yes.
to make it a more vibrant, busy market.
Yeah.
I think we need a hybrid system where vehicles are allowed on if the vehicle is an integral part of the stall, or you have perishable goods which you need to access.
Yeah.
I mean, I spoke to Luke, the bread guy. I mean, I think all his stock comes out and he parks elsewhere, so that's fine. But he parks on Whitefriars Meadow, so that might cause problems with residents. So we do need a system where the traders, if they're not parking on the square, get a parking permit for that morning from 7 till 2 or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And so they don't lose out financially. Maybe the fee needs to be different for whether the vehicles are on or off the square, but that's something we can look at in detail.
Yeah.
But I think the plan, two things we need to do. One is to do a scaled up version of the plan, measure it all up. Maybe Councillor Breen could do this with his construction background, and measure out the pitches, potential pitches of where they might all go, depending on vehicles or not vehicles on the thing. The other thing is, a few weeks ago we talked about when the market manager resigned, we talked about contacting Deal.
Yeah.
I understand now that the Deal market manager is ill, so that's not going to happen. But I think we need to contact other potential interim managers. So there's the Cliftonville Farmers Market, which is really successful.
Faversham.
Faversham.
Yeah.
You know, maybe 3 or 4. I mean, I'm happy, or maybe between us we're happy to do that. Just to say, would you take this on as an interim contract, you know, on a fixed fee, just to get the thing moving, to consult with the traders and push it ahead? I don't know if that's something Andy feels he could do, or whether you prefer someone.
There's two Andys.
I've been involved in market management
Yes, good,
2 years ago before Anne-Marie. So
I
I actually live on the square and I run the sandwich shop.
Okay.
And so if you're looking for an interim programme, it's something I would be happy to talk to you about.
Can I ask a question before I ask Councillor Mannett in and sorry Carol? How would the working group feel about putting the market out to tender? So then they run the market. It's their call what they do under in principle.
Like a cooperative.
Yes.
I suspect at the moment you would struggle to draw up the tender documents and the approach to the tender and get it right until you've gone through an interim phase and re-established what are you doing. Things like allocation of space is going to be fluid. To start off with, you've got more space than you need. As you get more stalls in, you can look at adjusting things. But to go from where you are today to be able to tender, well, first of all, most organisations will look at it and say, well, I'm not sure we're really interested. I think you're going to go through an interim phase.
Councillor Mannett?
One of the comments is we're working in a vacuum. I'm not really sure when the market moves back into the square.
We don't know yet. We're still waiting for dates.
Right, so there will be a date when it moves back into the square with potentially 6 or 7 traders growing. Surely we have a period in which we can fix it, when we can essentially say, come onto the square. We're not too concerned about the vehicles being on the square. Which vehicle is, which vehicle isn't, pending speaking to DDC and getting permits and the like. But basically to keep the market going on the square as soon as we can, in a practical way, so that people can turn up. And we've got a volunteer already to essentially make sure people are positioned in a sensible way. And the thing is, it's market traders will position themselves sensibly anyway, because that's the nature of a market. You work together. And in the meantime, and it might be 6 months, it might be into next year, because after all, things slow down over the winter. In that time, we can come up with a
strategy.
A proper way of doing it.
A strategy, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we talked previously about things like gazebos, etc. I'm not saying that that's the solution, but as part of the strategy, if the relaunch could be the whole different look of the market, so time is more precious than doing it quickly, and it's supporting the existing market stakeholders in terms of getting back onto the Guildhall and making sure that they're protected, and then alongside that, looking at how we build it.
Yes, not being too...
I keep on hearing reference to an increased number of stalls. Absolutely, it's a desirable thing to double and treble the numbers, but how is it going to happen? Who's going to do what to make it? Isn't going to happen magically.
No, and that's my point, Steve, going back 10 minutes ago.
Go to Carol.
This is what I was trying to get to. We're just talking around it and putting in sort of small steps here. We've got an offer from someone who is willing to take it over as on an interim basis, and that person has experience, the expertise, and the know-how. So, in my opinion, that's what you should take. Council should take up. Yes, we can then perhaps work with that person to look at what this strategy is going to be and how the strategy is going to be moved forward. Because someone who's had experience knows how to do it, they're more likely to be able to come in and say, right, this is what you do need to do, this is how we do it, or this is a suggestion of how we do it, and actually get that whole thing moving. And that needs to happen ASAP, because without it, we'll be into the winter before we know it. So I don't know how one goes about appointing that person. I don't know what the fee is. We were obviously paying a fee for Anne-Marie. So whatever the fee. So we need to sort of grasp that by the nettle and then start working with that person to, as a separate entity to all of this, to formulate what that strategy will be, how we're going to do it, what are the various stages moving forward, and how the current traders, when and how they move on and off the market now, and so on. And I'm assuming that you must have understood all the contractual issues that went with the market traders, or whether that went directly just through yourself, because there are lots of...
Well, I think what's come out of the conversation, you have to have total flexibility.
Yes.
Because each market stall will have specific requirements as different, and that's what we do. And if you recall, we had, every time you get a new market stall that is interested, you have to take into respect of what they want and what they need, as well as what we're looking for.
And we were doing it under
Sorry, I've been waiting to speak for a long time. I would like to point out that if we're going to develop a strategy, then it has to have economics at its foundation, because we're going to try and increase the number of stallholders, but we don't know the price which those unknown stallholders would be willing to pay for what percentage profit. So it's a very long time since I did a degree in economics, but so I'm not offering myself, but what I am suggesting is that we do need an economist actually to look at those sorts of questions and feed into any strategy.
Well, again, this is where I get annoyed, because this is what the community interest company did. We had the contracts, we had the insurance, we had the strategy, we had the business plan which we gave to the council, and it was based on the 70-30 profit share. So you took your market fees, you paid your manager a modest daily fee, and then the profit was shared. 30% went to Sandwich Town Council, 70% went to the community interest company, who spent all of the rest of it on Sandwich Town. So 100% of it went to Sandwich Town, and all of those things you're asking for were in place. And the council, without consultation, for reasons which I don't understand to this day, suddenly ripped it up and said, we'll take it in-house, without a strategy to deliver it in-house. So, you've had an offer, but what I don't know is what the offer is, and whether the legal entity, where you've got to, if you take it on, you've got to have your insurance again, you've got to have all of your strategy in place for your own risk protection, for your own financial management, for your own taxes, whether you do that through your existing business structure you're saying, whether you want to set up a new one. We don't know what your proposition would be. But out of that will come a business plan.
So
Which is what we wrote before.
I've got to leave, I'll go back to work, go me now.
That's fine,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Thanks, Andy. So, Andy, do you have anything to say?
Any written documentation, not at this stage, no. I'll have to draw on experience and understanding of how the market works, talking to existing stallholders. Obviously, I'll have to prepare both an action plan and a financial plan. But which comes first? There's a bit of a chicken and egg there, because you can kill the golden goose if you put too much concern onto how financially profitable it is. You've got to get your stallholders happy. If the stallholders are happy, then the market will expand. But you know, it's got to be a joint venture. It's not just a market manager. It's a joint venture between the council, between the manager, and the stallholders. And everybody has to work together to achieve the objective.
I mean, with this working group has delegated powers to allow us to appoint someone to be interim market manager to look into it. I mean, if you'd be interested, then we could propose it.
So we don't have any delegated financial authority.
No, we can put it to full council.
Yeah. So what we're trying to to go back to what I said earlier. We as a small working group cannot solve the problem. There is a big problem here. This has to be generated upwards to the town council. If we need to plug a gap for now for a safe landing of the market stallholders back onto the Guildhall, then let's get that sorted. But it is a longer term situation. We have to get the right person employed in whatever shape or form, but we can't, you know, the offer might be brilliant, it might be the right solution, but we can't start from that end. We as a council have to properly govern about how we're going to appoint a person to do this, or take it outside elsewhere, you know, whatever it is, but we haven't got that vision and strategy in place today.
Can I don't think, Andy, do you have a relationship?
Would you like me to leave the room? I'm quite happy if you want to talk about it.
Can I just ask, do you have a relationship with the existing stallholders? Do you
Never
know?
seen him before.
You've never seen him?
I don't have a relationship with
Yeah.
them.
No, I don't
I
know.
possibly could.
You know.
Which one?
At least
Is
with
that a
Andy,
proposition?
at least with Andy, we actually saw him every week.
Whereas this is the whole point, the market manager does need to be on
Present,
site
yeah.
all the time.
Yes.
From the time we come in to the time we go, the vehicles leaving the market need the banksmen and hazard lights, and one at a time on and one at a time
When Max
off.
was turning up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and he was waking me up getting his flowers out, and I had
Well,
I
I
was
can
there
promise
in
you,
the
we
morning.
won't be there at that time in the morning, so
Max
we
was
start
there
off
at
on
3
good
o'clock in the
foot.
morning.
I think you have to be very careful that you don't get the cart before the horse.
I mean, I
Because
think
you can't run unless you can actually crawl. And I think you're right, we have to get it moved first and then work upwards from there. There's no point in pointing big whiz kids to do this or whatever. We just need to get the market re-established
so.
and then move away from that.
That's my.
That's my next Easter before you get your own.
Yeah, let Colin say what he
So
wants.
that's my point, that we are looking, whether we approach Faversham or Cliftonville, whatever, we're looking for an interim solution, just a stopgap.
Yeah.
Until we can get the whole thing
Yeah.
properly established
market
with the new
manager.
staffing, market manager, everything.
Yeah.
So if Andy is saying he's willing to do the work, I think we should say to him, come in next week, talk to
100%,
the town clerk, a couple of councillors.
Yeah.
You know, we need to check your background and credentials, but if the offer's on the table, then you know, let's go for it, because we need to take action.
Sally?
I do also think that perhaps we need to sort out the dates of when we can actually get on this, so we can have a little bit. I'm happy to social media. Christina does the
Yes,
social media
yeah, she
thing
does.
fabulously for us, and she's the one person that's kept the market going every single week by advertising us. So, great, thank you.
That's
But
big
as
thing
you
to go
gather, we
advertising.
are all very passionate about it. Users or losers is basically it, and that is on the table, that is on the line, users or losers. So if we can get a date to start, I'm happy to social media to any people I know, to say anybody who's got wax melts, jam making, what the hell, it doesn't matter. But we all need to make a concerted effort to try and get more stalls in so that we can get. You see, the trouble is as well, outsourcing and stuff like that, you've got to have the money to be able to do that. If you've got an unlimited pot to outsource it for somebody else to do it, that's fabulous. But you've got to have the revenue to actually get the market rolling, and right at the moment you haven't. So Andy's obviously experience is the person we've got to run with initially. Yes? Because we haven't got the money to call in another company. We haven't got the money to get somebody to do it, to come in and do it. It's going to cost, nobody's going to rock up for less than £150 a market day to run that market. Are they 5 in the morning until 2 o'clock? Nobody's going to do it. And that money is not coming in, is it?
See, one of my points that I've written down for today's meeting as well is obviously the publicity is stuff as well. And one of the recommendations I was going to make is for Sandstown Council to put out an advert everywhere, online posters or that kind of thing, to see if we can get some more stallholders.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely. We all need to be doing that.
Well, I think if Andy is, say he comes in and we run with him, then that would be his role, to set out the layout and to contact more stallholders, whether it's Deal Market or Cliftonville, and to make sure there's a good mix of complementary stallholders.
Absolutely, not as well.
We don't know what we're offering. I mean, we haven't yet talked about up-to-date pitch fees for small and large stalls, and I mean, presumably that's the first question that traders will ask. So how much are you charging? We haven't talked about.
So the proposal would be so it'd be £20 for a 3x3 metre pitch per week.
Sorry, can we just stop for 1 minute before we do that, because that's really important. But what have we made a decision? We've got an action here. We've got a temporary solution being proposed.
My proposal is we invite Andy in for a discussion with a couple of councillors and the town clerk next week.
And that's the
as an interim, as a purely interim proposal.
Yeah, and then the longer term is working perhaps with Andy and to formulate a strategy. I mean, Andy might have a really good long-term strategy.
While the market goes on.
Yes. While it's
we will
happening.
continue to run it.
Okay.
Yes.
Can we also propose that the market moves back into the square ASAP?
Yes, please.
Because there's no, with the square finished, which it essentially is, I think there's the old road going still, where Mushroom Shop, but fundamentally it's ready to use.
You need to fix a date and work back.
So you're having the meeting on Tuesday with David Parris, aren't you? My action recommendation is you to ask for a date, if you'd like to do that.
Well, we can ask for a date. If David Parris says tomorrow, which he might well do, he can say, because after all we've had 2 festivals there already. So essentially, it's in use. We're using it. We're walking across it. And if we were to say, well, perhaps not next Thursday might be too soon. It might not be too soon. Next Thursday.
All our stuff is movable.
Yeah. You turn up, you set up.
The only thing I've got concern about is the bit, how long it's going to take for them to do the cost a bit, because that's where the drop curve is. That's the only thing I'm...
Actually, the drop curve is accessible at the moment. When I have a look at the same process, it's quite wide. It's this side of Costa. It's accessible at the moment.
The contractors have said that they would be finished and probably not even complete. Not this week coming, but by the week after, they probably would be gone.
I can't see any reason at all why you shouldn't start the Thursday market here, week Thursday.
Yeah.
Week Thursday.
Yeah.
Can we actually take a vote that we as a group propose week Thursday, market moves here?
Yeah. I'll second that.
Thank you so much, all of you. Really appreciate it.
And my proposal that.
And the other thing, I'm not going to ask for a decision, but the legal structure and ownership was a big issue because, as I said before, and I'll say it again, the CIC was a proper registered, insured, etc. organisation that took the responsibility and public liability for the market. So the appointment of the manager to run the market was under the CIC. When the council took it back in house, you then had responsibility for manager, but the council, not you, because you weren't a councillor, the council didn't implement it properly. So give some thought as you meet, please, what legal entity you're doing this under, whether it's the council or whether it's Andy's legal structure, business structure.
Yeah, can I propose also, you went through that process of being the CIC, presenting it to council, getting the contract. It was then taken away for whatever reason in the previous, not this council.
Yeah.
This council is different.
Yeah.
And I would propose also that it goes back to the CIC because it worked.
Sorry, we disbanded it.
Can it be revived?
The CIC doesn't exist. I think you should explore first of all with Andy an alternative legal structure and take it further. So I don't really want to get involved.
No, that's not right.
And the CIC we went.
I am going to continue to raise concerns that we can't. Somebody mentioned cart before horse. What we shouldn't be doing is jumping in with a solution that we then find actually wasn't the right solution. We have to decide as a council, and this is our responsibilities, of what is it we want to have that is right for the market. That can be informed by people, but the decision has to rest with us. We can't, in my opinion, go to town council and say, this is the person to bring in and do it. And there's nothing against Andy at all, because actually, he, as I said earlier, he may well be the right person, but we can't start from that point. The council has to be told what the problem is. There are options, one of which will be Andy, but there will be other options, and we need to decide as a council where we go with this. We cannot start from the other end and say, you as a council take this on board.
And that's what I agree with you wholeheartedly, and that's why really a discussion on pitch fees is premature, because until you know how you're managing it, whose responsibility it is, until you work out the structure you're working with. So, for example, when the CIC was doing it, we decided what pitch fees were because we knew that whatever the profit was, the council was getting a percentage of it. So it wasn't council's concern.
It wasn't profit though.
And that was determined whether you have a market or not.
That was it.
If you had pricing, you wouldn't have anybody here.
Correct, yes, so we had the flexibility.
We had, it wasn't a profit thing, was it, Steve? It was a split of revenue actually, wasn't it?
Yeah, called it profit because it was revenue after market managers' costs.
Yeah.
So we land the existing market safely back as quickly as possible. We've all agreed that.
Yeah.
Protect it from there,
With an interim
and then
solution.
build upwards. And I don't know how long it'll take, Colin. You know, I'm not a market expert, but somebody has got to be the right person to do that. And we have to decide how we do it. We don't just.
All I'm proposing is an interim, week-to-week solution until such time as we can get everything moving properly. And so invite Andy in next week to meet with us and talk about what we want, what he wants, and try and come up with a solution.
Do that, and then we could take it to full council. Full
So
council
very
to agree.
so can we just clarify what we're asking? So I've also heard things like developing a strategy, vision with I personally am reluctant with that. If it's a temporary solution to make everything safe and we move forward, that is exactly where we need to be today, in my opinion.
It's a temporary solution where he would presumably work out where stores go and try and get more stores, full stop. That's it.
You need to get through the summer and then spend some
And
time working out the long term.
And then have a longer term strategy about the mix of stalls, the fees, everything else. Whether we have fee holidays for new traders, that kind of thing.
Whether there's a role employed that will, part of their skill set, include dealing with that as the challenge.
I think actually what we will need is another working group, which is just specifically on market development. And that we should set that up from September onwards, when this group is finished. And it doesn't have to have the same people on it.
No. And co-opting, hopefully, people with the right expertise that actually drives it forward in the right way.
So the proposal is that and Leslie is to have a meeting with town clerk and councillors for the market to discuss the way forward, a short-term solution. So, Councillor Wiles proposed it, I seconded it, so all those in favour? Thank you. Councillor Wiles, can I ask you to set that up, because I'm not available next week, so.
Yeah.
Cool. So basically, the rest of it on the agenda, the other bullet points, is null and void at the moment. Then until we start moving forward.
They're all part of what we just discussed.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So we'll go to item 7 then. Item 7 is to discuss a temporary solution tourism. Discuss and make recommendations for a temporary pop-up tourism store on the Guildhall Square, run by the meet and greet volunteers. Report to STC. Now I've asked June Summerhays to come, and she's going to explain what she's mentioned, because it was one of her ideas. June.
Thank you for inviting me to speak. I appreciate that. Mark, who runs Lovey's Boutique, suggested at the town team meeting that we have a meet and greet service for coaches to direct them to the shops as well as other things. Sometimes they seem to miss out. So I gave that some thought, and what I'm suggesting is that I will volunteer to contact the coach companies that visit Sandwich and act as a liaison with a view to finding out when and where they're dropping off on the days that the visitor assistants are working, and then the visitor assistants can meet them. If it worked well, I'm suggesting a trial period. If it worked well, it could go on longer. It could also be extended to other days. It would depend on how it worked and whether we could get volunteers to meet the coaches. So I'm happy to do the work setting it up with a view to a member of council staff taking it over if the trial is a success, because I know you're short staffed and I've got some time to do it, so I don't mind. In the longer term, I've spoken to John Hennessy, and although he can't get History Society people down to meet every coach, if there was some liaison between the coach company and maybe the visitor assistants, if they had phones, and myself or somebody in the council office, it may be possible for the coach companies to find out how many people on a given coach are interested in a history tour, and if there were enough, then potentially someone from the History Society could meet the coach as well. It's all a bit vague at the moment because it depends whether it works and whether it will go on longer, but I would be very happy to do the legwork in getting it off the ground if you would like me to.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions for June?
Yes, I've got a question. You said it was a trial period, so when are you thinking of starting and how long will the trial last?
Well, as soon as you give me the go-ahead, if you do, I will start ringing around coach companies and try to build up some contacts, maybe with some help from Councillor Marie.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. How long the trial would run for would be largely up to yourselves. We're almost through the summer now, so I'm not sure how much more we can do this year. I don't know how many coaches we get visiting in the autumn and winter. Maybe you've got more idea.
I do believe it's a bit less than what we received in the summer, but it's not that great of a lesser,
right.
Because of the harvest.
Okay.
So they come down for the harvest because obviously it's Kent and harvest, and we've got loads of harvest going on. So yes, I have spoken to 10 coach companies around the UK already, and they are willing to have families put on their books and their itineraries for some holidays to come in the future months, years.
Excellent. Well, maybe you and I could liaise a bit.
I brought this to the Guildhall Square Working Group because the central location is the Guildhall forecourt. So I brought it on there so we can discuss have the pop-up tents in place, because the majority of the coach companies drop off on the bus stop outside the Guildhall Square, and I'll explain that to you on the
Some
email.
drop off at the quay, don't
Sometimes, but the majority of them, I always advise them to drop them off at the square.
To answer Claire Anderson's question, Councillor Anderson, the trial time limit would be up to yourselves really. certainly no more than 6 months. There wouldn't be much point, I don't think, going beyond that, maybe only 3 or 4.
Yeah.
We might find out fairly quickly how well it's working, so, you know, we can be flexible.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else got any questions or comments?
Yes,
That's a good idea.
I'm not quite sure. I mean, there are 2 things I think being suggested. There's June Summerhayes' very welcome suggestion of liaising with coach companies and meeting coaches.
Yeah.
But that's different from having a pop-up stall in the Guildhall.
I don't think that was part of June's.
It wasn't part of my thing,
No.
but it seems to me if the coaches are dropping off at the Guildhall forecourt, then the visitor pop-up thing will be there anyway, so it can work well enough.
We don't have a pop.
No, this is for us to discuss it. This is us to discuss it and agree if we want to have one in, because currently at the moment we have the tourist information, the visitor information centre, or whatever you want to call it these days, is closed at the weekends because there's no staff. So the idea is to have some form of temporary tourist information centre on the square, with a pop-up marquee, 2 tables and a few town guides and stuff for people to meet and greet the coaches or whoever comes in the town asking for whatever. To actually see what's going on, because at the moment, every time someone goes to the Guildhall on Saturday, Sunday, if they're visitors, it's closed.
Yes, exactly.
So that was one of the reasons why I put this on the agenda, because we have, obviously, we are the working group for the square, and we have dedicated power, so we can get this done as soon as possible, if everybody agrees.
Where do we get the tent from?
I was going to approach the Sandwich Community Events Association to borrow one.
So somebody has to put it up every.
It'll be given to either the volunteers or whoever to put it up.
I would suggest that for 4 weeks, yes, but really you should be looking to buy one, because they do deteriorate as you know.
Yes.
And get the scheme up and running to work out what you really want. Trouble with going out and buy one straight away, you don't really know quite what you want, and how big or strong and all the rest of it, so I don't mind lending one for 4 weeks.
See, I've got a ballpark figure of running this for 2 months, August and September.
And does that include the cost of because they're already being paid, the visitor assistants?
The meet and greets of volunteers.
No, they're not. They're paid.
I believe that Amanda's paid.
They're paid.
She works weekends. I mean, she could be based there instead of wandering
Yes,
around.
quite.
That's what we discussed at one of the tourism meetings.
Yeah.
That you've already paid some.
She doesn't work. She only works how many days? 2?
Well, I think
Saturday.
but I saw her today. So
When I saw her last weekend, she said she does weekends.
okay, well, we need to know. But I do think they might be more efficiently deployed within a whatever you're talking about.
Gazebo.
It's not a tent, presumably.
It's a gazebo. One of the market
Broadstairs have just done a new
Yes,
shack.
they've got a little shed.
Sorry, can I just ask, if we want to set this off in motion, do we need the gazebo there and then to do it? Because we've got a volunteer, and we've got volunteers. They're going to be meeting the coach, hopefully, and then they are armed with the leaflets and the maps to hand out to the people on the coach that are on the coaches. So they're going to be given that information. We know that 1 or 2 of the shop owners are willing to volunteer if they know when these coaches are coming, so that might add to the list. We've still got to recruit possibly more volunteers to help. But do we need that pitch, that tent straight away?
I think we're getting confused between the new development of meeting the coaches, which is one initiative, and the roaming, which we talked about a couple of months ago, the pop-up, which is for everybody, not just coaches. They're different agendas, but they come together with having a fixed point which is visible. And that's the advantage of having a gazebo. The public can actually see it and they know there's something there. And then they go and say, oh, I was wondering where I get information from. You can see a gazebo, you've got a signage on it. And that's the advantage of having it there.
Yeah. Colin, you want to say something?
Yeah, I think we're going slightly off piece because this is on the agenda for Heritage on Monday, isn't it, to set up a forum. So maybe it could be discussed there.
Yes, but that would delay
more
it. No,
appropriately.
no, I don't think. I think it's important that we put both these things in place as quickly as
Okay.
possible.
Well, yeah, do it then.
So I think we should do that.
Yeah.
And I've offered you the loan of 1 for 4 weeks, then gives us
We need,
time.
we need a good sign, you know, big.
Well, you've got to do good signs, but they're easy to get. They're easy to get hold of. It's just a few bucks to pay for it.
Yes.
Actually, I think tucked away in the lockup there is actually a couple of banners that say information
There is,
with an
there
eye.
is. Yeah, there is.
So do you know where they are?
Yes, I
So
know
that
exactly
is
where they
kind
are.
of-
Well, why don't we just
Do it.
So,
who's going
okay.
to take responsibility for making
Could you
something
explain
happen?
what we're doing?
So the idea is to have a pop-up gazebo on the square at the weekends for say for 1 month. Say 1 month for the August, say from August on August to September.
Oh, before
Why-
then.
why not do
Or
When
now,
in
or
July
now,
to
to, okay, or now till September.
Just start.
Week on Saturday.
Yeah, week on Saturday, which will be the
22nd.
22nd. Thank you, Mark.
No, 15th.
Yeah, 15th. This is 15th. July. For the meet and greet to run it, set it up, and then during some ways we contact.
So sorry, before moving on to the second one, so that in effect, if I play it back, is we have a meet and greet that we're employing already in
Yes.
May. So we're basically giving them the gazebo to make them more prominent and obvious.
On the square.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
On
so
the
that's a
square.
simple step.
Yes.
Okay. So number 2.
Number 2 is for June Summer Hayes to contact the coach companies.
One question though, if I'm asking them where they're dropping off,
Yeah.
if they're dropping off at the quay and the visitor assistant is on the forecourt, will she then go over to the quay to meet them and leave the forecourt for half an hour, or whatever?
And I think there are 2 meet and
Yes.
greeters.
There are
There are
2.
2, so they could.
So from your experience, in terms of where the coaches go, because you did say at the start, well, a lot of we're talking about it because it's the Guildhall, so
Yeah.
that is then addressed by the meet and greeter here, I
Yeah.
think. The question then is, how many coaches do we expect, do we know from knowledge, would go to the quay? Because if there is a demand there, brilliant. If there's not a demand, then you're going to be sitting around twiddling your thumbs. So is there a demand at the quay for a second greeting that enables people to come into the town?
Sorry, isn't the idea that
This would
you
be a
know?
travelling, she
It's
just,
chicken
I
and
would
egg.
work out when they were coming,
Yeah.
liaise with them,
Advise them to drop
and the
off there.
visitor assistant would go
See,
over
my
there and meet
suggestion
them
would
every
be,
time.
is when June speaks to the coach companies, is to tell them to drop off at the square.
Yeah.
It's a central location for the town. It's the focal point of the town. It's the heart of the town.
That's fine, what happens if there are buses there?
They'll have to wait.
They'll have to get off quick.
So what everyone else does.
They're elderly.
Wait.
Yeah.
Thought this through well.
Well, excuse me, can I just?
The same as
say
events
Yeah,
weekends.
please.
a gazebo was taken up for us last week, and it supposedly belongs to the council.
Oh, you
and
said
it's-
yes, I saw that. Yeah.
And it's in the church, so it's your gazebo.
In St Peter's.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. So you don't have
Must be
to
one of
hire
those.
or
It is.
anything.
I think. To be fair, I think it's.
Must be one of those.
I don't know.
Council's never bought any.
So, yeah.
Council doesn't know how quite a book magazine is. It's not as
So
simple as that.
if we can do.
So if we are giving June the permission to phone up coach companies to speak to them, see if they are coming into Sandwich to recommend that they drop off in the Guildhall Square where they can be met by the tourist information.
Oh, the stagecoach will be do a.
Can only be.
Any bus, any coach that has more than 16 seats can pull up in a bus stop, regardless of what they are.
It happens for events weekends. When the weekend was on, I had inquiries from coach companies where to drop off and just use a bus stop. I don't recall it causing a problem.
Any vehicle with more than 16 seats can use a bus stop to drop off and pick up.
Doesn't take long.
I've seen a notice on one of the bus stops that actually says it's stagecoach only. I haven't checked both of them, but I did see it on one because a resident told me about it.
In the highway code for coaches, it says that any bus more than 16 seats can pull up in a bus stop and pick up in a bus stop.
Public highway.
It's a public highway. They can't park there and stay there. They can only pick up and drop off. That's why it's classed as a bus stop, not a bus stand. They are bus stands.
For Stagecoach, these are bus
They are
stands, so
bus
they are
stands,
allowed
yes,
to
but they-
stop
but-
and wait.
Yes, local buses can stop and wait, however, coaches and minibuses and stuff cannot wait, they have to move on. It's in the highway code.
Just practicalities, the gazebo and possibly a table.
Yes.
Stored boiler room, lock up, sandwich shop, because it's got to be stored somewhere.
In the caretaker.
Visitor centre?
Yeah.
Boiler room would be best.
Yeah, but I'll speak to the caretaker and store it in the boiler room.
Yeah.
I'm still not clear. I'm still not very clear. We've got coaches, we've got 2 employed people who are covering Saturday and Sunday.
Yes.
We've got coaches that are coming in here Wednesdays,
Yes.
Thursdays. So we don't have any employed people to meet. To
Only
meet
the
that.
person in the tourist or whatever you want to call it, the information centre downstairs.
I was only
No, but
proposing
that-
doing this when the visitor assistants are working, because I don't see how it can work
No.
otherwise. But I also thought they did Friday, Saturday and Sunday.
Yes, I think
thought
they
did
do.
Fridays.
It all needs checking with the town clerk. I don't know.
So we need to check. We need to check that. So you would only do this for the weekend or when they're working.
Just for the trial
Yeah.
period to see how
Yes.
it goes.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Could I just suggest we roll this into the tourist
For
delivery?
if it happens, yes.
Yeah, if it happens, get it started now, great.
Yeah.
But that's its natural home, so that's
Yes,
where
it
it needs
is.
to go.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So
I
keep
have,
starting,
yeah,
that's great.
I have a fair amount to say about that on Monday, so
I'm looking forward to the meeting.
So,
Mr. Chairman.
okay, thank you. So one more thing, number 8, any other businesses? Or any other business? No?
No.
Okay, next meeting to be decided to be confirmed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.